You are listening to Talk Pretty Real Estate with your host, Beth Pretty. Beth has over 15 years of experience helping people with their real estate needs, and she understands that real estate is more than just selling and listing homes. It's about opening doors and changing lives. And now your host, Beth Pretty.
Hey, welcome listeners. Thanks so much for joining us again. We really appreciate it. And today is a very special episode. If you listen to episode 2, we had the McMurdys here, Jennifer and Ray McMurdy, who have this incredible business that they've built called Capital Home Inspections, which is located in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm so curious about this because they're married and they own this business together, and I'm always curious about that, and how they make it work, what works, what doesn't work. So I thought it would be fun to bring them back and talk about what it's like to own a business with your significant other. So here we are. We're back. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our
Thank you
producer, you're welcome. And our producer, Michael Resendez, is
Hello,
here.
hello.
Hi, Michael. And so we're going to just dive into this. And just to refresh everybody's memory, the McMurdys own an inspection business. So give us your backgrounds and how you decided you were going to do this, own an inspection business. I mean, you could have owned a Hallmark card store. You could have owned a Sweet Frog. Why?
We were destined for home inspection.
Yeah, so tell us about this. How did you get into it?
Well, I would say we started the business in 2004, and I came from kind of a corporate transportation industry. We both met at VCU. Jen has a degree in marketing and always were interested in some type of business. Her parents owned their own business, so kind of...
What kind of business?
My parents actually owned a homeschooling bookstore.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, consignment. So my parents, I come from like a long line of entrepreneurs. So when I was growing up, my mom homeschooled my younger sisters, and she would have all these bookshelves in her living room of books, and everybody would be coming over, sharing the books. And it just became this big, huge consignment business, and that she built up. And so both of my parents worked in it together. So
neat.
Yeah, it's really cool to watch.
And
them.
also, just so you know, her parents also owned rental properties. So they also had this passive income, which you guys know. I'm a huge proponent of passive income. And
so that was kind of a big inspiration for us. And I remember we were just both really stuck in the rut of the corporate world. I was working for Kaplan Test Prep, and so I was like the marketing director for the Richmond area, and we were both just working in these very corporate environments, and we were just kind of burned. We were working 60, 70 hours a week, and just kind of running that whole rat race. And I remember one night we were like laying on the couch, and we just like looked at each other and we were like, what are we doing? Like we just don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, let's start a business. Because, I'm the one who's like.
So what year is that?
This was 2003 right when we had Jacob.
Yeah.
Oh, so you
great time to start a business.
So you have your first child. And
your first house.
You're tired. Your first house. You're exhausted in your business. Your first
puppy.
And
A puppy.
and you decide, hey, let's start a business.
Yeah.
Okay. Quit your job.
Yeah.
Let's
quit our jobs.
Quit that income. That's income coming in. Okay.
So you got to start somewhere. So I was like, what do you want to do? And he was like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And he was like, well, I like houses. And, he had been, flipping properties. And
okay. All right. So wait a minute. Talk a little bit about that, because
when Jen and I were kind of first dating, I would also go with her dad to work on properties. I've also had my contractor's license for many years. And so I would work on houses that I rented while I was going to school at VCU. And then...
And what do we call that? House hacking, right? We call that hacking. Okay, go on.
But, working with Jen's dad, flipping properties also kind of furthered our interest in real estate. And her parents are really good with...
very savvy.
Very savvy with real estate.
And so, investing and everything,
just kind of really made us more interested in, and then going on home inspections and meeting other home inspectors, I thought I could do that better.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
And better. I love that.
And so we, and I was like, I can market any business. I love that side of things. And so it was funny. Yeah, it just kind of all fell into place. I think you took one of those tests that you take online that helps you find like what your career path should be. And I think Ray's top 3 were like police officer, architect, and home inspector.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, well, home inspection, that sounds like it might work. And then we just started like researching it and looking into it. And then before we knew it, he was up in Northern Virginia training, and we started our business,
Wow, that's great. So just to share a little bit about myself, my parents were business owners too, and I'm originally from Maryland. And in Maryland, liquor stores can be privately owned.
Oh, really?
Yes, they can.
Oh.
So my dad was a truck driver delivering beer. That's what he did for a living. He worked for Schlitz, delivering beer to some of the seediest parts of Baltimore. If you're from Baltimore, I'm sure you've heard of the Block. And that was part of my dad's area that he delivered to. So great stories there. Another time, and don't let your children listen. So that's what my dad was doing. And my mom was working for PBS, Public Broadcasting, and she continued to hold that job. But the two of them decided, hey, we want to start a business. This was in the 70s when interest rates were 18%. So don't even complain about 7 or 8% because my parents had to pay 18% to start their business. So I have also come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I started working in that business at age 8, yes, at a liquor store. And I had my little jobs. I carried cases of beer into the cool box. I dusted all the merchandise, and I did the inventory. And by age 11 or 12, when the salesman came in and asked, how many cases of this do you want? How many cases of that? I would help place those orders. I knew the inventory.
I love it.
Yeah. So I also come from that. So I'm fascinated by your story. And you figured out what color your parachute was.
Yes.
Great book if you don't know what you want to do for a living. What color is my parachute? So you figured that out, and you thought home inspection. So what advice do you give to figure out how much money you need to kick off a business? What did that look like?
Don't think about it and just
do it.
Just do it.
Because if you think about it, you'll be
that's kind of the difference between Jen and I,
paralysis.
is that I'm analysis paralysis person,
and I jump right in,
and she jumps right in, and so I don't know. I probably would still just have a dog without any kids if it wasn't for Jen. I tend to analyze everything probably longer than I should.
I analyze things too, but I'm like, I analyze as we go. It's like, let's figure it out as we go. And so, I think that it balances us tremendously, but it also is probably one of our biggest points of contention.
Sure.
As well.
So we have a risk taker and we have our cautious player, and the two of you together, you have to kind of meet in the middle, or you have to relinquish, probably more like you relinquish control to her to get started, and you have to relinquish some control to him to figure out some steps.
Yeah, I don't think it's interesting. Like, I don't think it works for us to meet in the middle.
Right.
I think it more so works for us, for him to come over to the dark side a little bit on some things, and me to go over to the dark side a little bit for his things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just both have to get out of our comfort zone to
and get out of each other's way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's more of the driving force of the sales and business?
Oh, I can answer that.
It's definitely
for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely can answer that. That's Jen.
Yeah, because that's a huge thing. I'm a business owner for almost 10 years now, and my wife owns 2 practices. She's and when she went to dental school, and we were kind of in the beginning stages of me getting started and stuff, because I was in the dealership world for 20 years before then, and she had a half a day about business for her, all these courses and going through school and stuff like that. It was a half a day to learn about running a business, and I was just like, and then she's she's really good at numbers and all that. She's so on the book side, she's great and so that. But for pushing and getting the clients and seeing opportunities where, putting a little seed in something that's like, okay, this is going to grow, but we're going to, as in like the client or investing and all that stuff, and, how to push and when not to push and all that. That's something that's, people, you can't just teach that.
You can't teach it. You either have it or you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I really appreciate about Jenn, and if you're going into a business with your partner, I feel like you either have to have one of the two of you have to be the brilliance behind marketing, or you got to outsource it, and of course that costs money. So if one of the two has that ability, then I think you're going to be successful.
That made me brilliant because I just married it.
You did. We call that marrying up.
Marrying up.
Yeah, marrying up. So
very true. I'm very lucky.
So I'm always impressed. We'll get back to you. I'm always impressed, Jenn, with your
Ray's
creativity.
like, I need attention.
We will stroke your ego in just a moment. I'm always struck by your creativity behind your marketing madness. Can you share a little bit about anything online or a person or a book or anything like that to help somebody get started on planning, planning how they would market their business? Do you have any tips or insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you read all the books, you're going to, find all the cliche, like find your target market and who are your customers. And I think all of those things are very important, just as a base for where you need to start. But really, I just find inspiration through other business owners. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really my go-to. I mean, I find a tremendous amount of inspiration through other entrepreneurs and other business owners. What are they doing? Other industries. I think what makes us very unique is I'm constantly going outside of our industry. Like, if you do what all the other home inspection companies are doing, you're doing what all the other home inspection companies are doing. Right. So what's the fun in that? So I'll look and see, what are cleaning companies doing, or what are plumbing companies doing, and what are the top players in those areas doing, and then trying to implement that in our business, and really just trying to find ways to stay creative and stay on top of things.
Well, stay current, right?
Yes.
Stay trendy, stay current, stay cutting edge.
Yes.
You can't just say, okay, we're going to run this coupon and we're going to do this from now and forever and just hope it pays off for us. And I think you have to also, feed your own creative passions if you're that type of person. Like for me, I love to write. I take a writing class once a week. I spend 2 hours writing, and so, for me, that drives me because I fill my bucket of creativity, and then I'm able to, kind of pour it out into our business, I
would also say that it's, you're really good about coming up with something that adds value to the people that we're, working or catering to, because just going out there and being like, pick me, like that really, there's lots of people doing that.
Well, that's the magic phrase. Are you bringing value? What value are you adding? And no business is going to be successful unless they bring some sort of value to their customer pool. So that has to be at the top of the list that you're planning every day.
Lots of creative ways.
When you're at a referral based business, I'm saying, where you don't have a storefront with people walking in, when you're at like 90% or 85% of your coming in, then you're doing something right. If you're not getting referrals and you're not, then you're kind of, there's something happening that's not computing, that people are not referring you, every day or something.
Well, and you're in a type of business where you really have two customers, right? You have realtors, and then that you got
buyers and your clients.
Yeah, so you have the actual people you're doing the inspection for, but you also have realtors that you got to razzle dazzle so that they'll want to refer you, as you're saying, Michael. So, let's transition over to you and talk a little bit, because you're the practical person in this business. You're bringing the expertise. You're kind of the manager of the celebrity talent, right? So that's kind of how I look at it, right? So he's the talent. And so tell us about how you got started. And I mean, you've already talked about the investment and the investment properties and flipping and all of that. But what did you have to do to become an inspector, to be a member of ASHI, to get your license and all that? Just real quick, some steps in case somebody would want to become a home inspector.
Well, you definitely have to know that you're mechanically inclined, and you definitely have to like it, because it's something that, you don't necessarily do it for the money. You have to kind of have a passion for it, I would say, because it's not always, the most glamorous job. And, I went through some formal training and went through, the classes to get to that. And then you have to go on what we call ride-alongs, where you kind of shadow another home inspector.
Kind of apprentice, so to speak.
Kind of apprentice,
yeah.
yes. And so it's kind of a mixture of in-classroom training. I did a lot of, self kind of like study and, looking at stuff. Also just kind of my experience in being a contractor and doing flipping houses. But doing the classroom work and then kind of like the on-the-job training or the, shadowing other home inspectors.
So, that's a really good point. And I think this is why a lot of restaurants fail, is because people think, oh, it would be really cool to own a restaurant, but they have no talent in cooking or even necessarily marketing a business. They just think it would be cool and they have some money, and so they're going to start a restaurant. I mean, you're saying, I really enjoy this. And he doesn't mind sweating, because you're going to be sweating. Mm-hmm. He doesn't mind going into crawl spaces, most crawl spaces, unless they are full of poo, or snakes, or things like that.
See last podcast for reference of that story.
Episode number 2 for the poo story. So, you brought talent legitimately to the table, and you researched the business and knew what you needed to do. My parents with their liquor store, when my dad was ready to get out, and everybody needs an exit strategy, I think, with a business. He did not have a great exit strategy. Somebody came in who had inherited money and said, oh, I think it would be so cool to own this liquor store. We want to buy it. And they had not done their research. They knew nothing about the business. I mean, my dad knew about the business. He was a salesperson of beer, so he knew that whole aspect and process of the business. And these people did not, and they ran the business in the ground in about a year and a half, 2 years' time. So you really do have to have a passion for the business. It was sad, very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and he's really, he's just an expert at what he does. Like, he just knows, I don't want to say he knows everything, but he knows a lot. And, there's very rarely a house question that we ask that Ray doesn't know the answer to,
right.
Or have a resource for, or can figure it out. And I think that's what's made him such a successful inspector, is that he researches things, and he's good at self-study. Like, he'll figure it out on his own.
I definitely don't know everything, but I'm usually pretty good, and being tenacious and trying to find the answer and always wanting to know more. I'm the guy at night, not really watching a whole lot on TV, but I'm online, looking at stuff about code and houses.
So you're staying current, right?
Again, stay current.
Yeah.
Staying current.
Well, that's why I say it's important, that you have to actually like it, because you're not going to, be reading code manuals or books or looking at things at 12:30 at night when other people are watching TV or on Facebook or something.
Right.
I think that's what leads to our success working together is both of us are super passionate about what we bring to the table. I think that really helps.
Well, I mean, if you're the type of person where you have some money and you're like, I think it would be cool to own this, that's great. Invest the money and get out of the way, because if you're not going to be passionate about the industry and do what needs to be done, then you're going to run that business in the ground. So you're married, and they have 3 beautiful children. Tell us about...
And a puppy.
A new puppy. This puppy is so cute.
A new fur baby.
It actually... It's a she, right?
Yeah.
She is so cute. She looks like a stuffed animal, but that's a whole nother story.
She's so cute.
So tell us about life-work balance, because I know you guys, you don't miss many field hockey games or wrestling matches or dance or cheerlead, like that. These are the things their kids are involved in, and I know that you make it to those. Tell us about that balance when you own a business. That's hard to do. So how do you make that work?
very busy.
It's very busy. So we have,
Especially when they don't drive yet, right? Those are the hard years.
well, yeah. I mean, Alex and Jacob are both driving, so that's very helpful. But you know, I don't know how we do it all, honestly.
You just keep doing it.
We just keep doing it. You just get through
don't
each
stop and think about
day.
it. You just keep doing it.
We just keep doing it. We do have some structure, though. We have Sunday meetings. So every Sunday we meet with our planners and we figure out our week, both professionally and personally.
Make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, and make sure we have the same, like, what are our goals this week? Like, what are we focused on? What are we doing? And so I think that really helps keep us balanced.
So let me just unpack that for a second. So if you didn't hear, what they're saying is there's communication, right? So if there's not going to be communication.
On Sundays there's communication.
So 1 out of 7 days you need to have communication. And I know you're just joking because there's a lot of good communication going on. What I'm hearing is communication is key. Because
On Sunday there's structured communication, though.
yeah.
You know, it's our, kind of standing thing.
And we actually see each other. A lot of the times I'm going one place, she's going in
Or we're
another
texting,
place.
or we're on the phone while we're on the go. And so that at that moment we're both, prioritizing what our week is going to look like, and what's important to both of us.
Yeah, and finding out what our kids have going on and what work hours they have, or
where they need to be.
So if I had the kids here and I asked them, hey guys, what would you say about this business that your parents have owned and your upbringing and your experience of being kids of business owners? What do you think they would say?
I think they'd each have different things to say because they're each at different places in life.
Yeah.
I think Jacob, being in college, would say, I want to own my own business. I want to work for myself. I want to...
That, like, gave me chills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think he's found a lot of value in, he's part of, like, more probably the marketing side of things and helping us with pop buys and think of fun and creative things to do. He's super creative. And so I think that's probably really built up that part of who he is, and shown him that there's a way to do that,
He's also had, jobs to where he's had to, have supervisors that sometimes you're like, I should probably do it this way, but you have to do what your boss tells you to. But if you, have
Work
your
for
own business,
yourself,
work for
yeah.
yourself.
Someone asked me the other day if I could go back to working a 9-to-5 job or something, and I was like, I would be fired in less than 4 minutes.
I mean, less than a minute for me.
I was
because
like,
I'm definitely not employable.
no, going to Starbucks gives me anxiety sometimes.
I'm the most
Watching,
unemployable person. Yeah.
I can never go back.
No, I would be fired in a second. But I think there are a lot of times that it's hard to have a family business, and all the stress of the business comes into your family life, and it's hard to separate the two. And if you've got, stressful things going on in the business, all of a sudden you have stressful things going on in the home. And if you have stressful things going on in the home, sometimes those stressful things come into the business. And so I think for our kids, I do worry that, have we done the right thing in having a business all of these years and, like, exposing them to all of that, like, conflict and stress and all the things that you don't see when you're advertising your business,
Right.
like the real stuff. But I think that what they've learned from it is that you keep going and, like, you don't quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I mean,
love
it's
that.
definitely
No matter how hard shit
things
gets.
get. Yeah. That's okay. We believe.
Hard stuff. Okay.
There's no plan B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, is
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
no
you
plan
just
B.
you figure out a way to make things work even when they don't,
Yeah, and I think that's important, both for our marriage and for our businesses. We're very much just keep going, and, we don't give up easy, and we just keep moving forward. And
If we gave up easy, this would have been done year one.
yeah,
Right.
For sure.
So when you guys have a disagreement, I'm sure that does happen
Never
occasionally
happens. Never.
in the business. And I'm talking about the business because we all have disagreements with our partners at home. But in the business, how do you work out those disagreements?
I'd say it depends on whose area of expertise it is. If it's something that's more marketing or business.
We tend to default to the other one.
Get out of the way, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have very, like, in the business, very clear lines of separation. In terms of, like, Ray is in charge of services and home inspectors and the technical side of things. And that's his area of expertise, and he's way better at it than I could ever be. And so I don't cross that line, and vice versa. I think it's the same way the other way around. I think we both have a lot of respect for what the other person does. But I think that the times in which there is conflict is when we do, when I'm like, oh, I'll work on this. And then he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this isn't my wheelhouse,
Right.
And so that's when things get sticky, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to have a certain healthy respect for your partner in life and business partner, and to, kind of default with them if it's something that hopefully that you don't know, that's your area of expertise.
Well, I think that if in your partnership you're not communicating and you don't respect each other at home, that's definitely going to roll into the business, because the business is where all the stress is.
Yep.
And, things under stress crack and break. So it seems like you need to have the healthy relationship before you doing a business together is not going to fix home. You got to have home working before you can venture into a business.
It's just like thinking like having a baby is going to fix your marriage.
Right. And a business is a baby, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
it's
for
not.
sure.
Nor
Yes.
a cute little puppy. It's not going to fix your...
Well, also, and with finances and stuff like that, it's bleeding together now, doing who's running the books and stuff like that, and making sure that you guys are, good for the end of the year and stuff like that, because that can kind of get dicey, especially in my world, we're two different businesses, completely different.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to have a clear cut of understanding, like, what you bring in, that's not all what you're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
People don't like thinking, they're like, no, pretty much half of that is not yours,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of expenses in running a business.
So on top of being married and finances, where that's a huge touchy subject, then you have to.
Usually the number one reason people don't make it, right?
Yes.
In their relationship.
It's about money and stuff like that.
Yes.
So,
Money.
And we have a good accountant.
That was what I was just going to say.
yeah.
You have a really good accountant.
We have a good accountant that
We found our who.
we found our who. That was definitely not. I handled our books for years, and it was not my thing. I hated it, And so I always say, if there's something in your business that you hate, don't do it.
Outsource.
Find somebody else that does it better, because there's always somebody that does that better than you. So yeah.
And take on the expense of doing that. How much happier are you now? And when you leverage your business to people who are experts in their areas, then that allows you to be creative or to get your certifications or learn more to be better at your business.
Yeah.
So tell us how you have leveraged your business. And at what point did you realize you needed to do that?
I think when Ray was doing
when I was working 7 days a week,
14 inspections, 15 inspections a week,
and we were turning away
tons of business,
and making
that's hard.
Making your first customer pull, the realtor's mad because you don't have an opening, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's it's kind of you don't want to let them down, because they count on you and you've established those relationships, and so that's kind of when we're just like, we need to duplicate ourselves and find some.
So what was your first hire?
So, our first hire was a home inspector.
Another home inspector.
Was a home inspector. And, it just had to happen. We didn't have any capacity. We actually should have done it way before we did. I think that's probably our biggest mistake in the business, is not hiring earlier.
All right. Did y'all hear that? Leverage as soon as you can.
You always think you can't afford it.
Right.
You
think can't afford not to.
Can't afford not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the home inspector was the first hire that we made. And then once we did that, we were like, oh, okay, we can do this. And then each hire after that,
You learn a little something. You get a little bit better with the training. You also get a little bit better with the hiring process.
Create new systems. And
Yeah. You have to kind of do things differently, though, and do it in a way that can be easily scalable versus just
I like
a
that.
mom and pop shop.
Scalable.
And then I think our most valuable hire was hiring somebody to do client care. Because, I had been answering the phones and running the books and building the business and marketing and wearing all of the hats outside of like a home inspector. And I think making that hire allowed me to free up to build the business, and feed the home inspectors,
Right.
So it's all a process, but it's a very, very difficult. This is a very difficult business to balance because you can't predict the market. And so you could build up the perfect business that, has the perfect number of inspectors and client care and marketing and all the things. And then the market tanks and you just kind of have to adapt and adjust. And so you're always pivoting. You're always trying to find new ways to reinvent the business. And over the past year, that's what we've had to do with the market shifting. So but Ray and I are good at that. Like if we see it coming, we'll sit down and we'll be like, okay, what's next?
I mean, there's always business out there to be gotten. It's just a matter of how you're going to get it. If you have to change the way you're doing something to get it, sometimes it just comes to you. Other times you got to go out and get it a little bit.
Or maybe
more.
you have to change what you're offering, or we're pretty like Ray is very flexible in that way. That he may not be flexible in other ways, but he's very flexible in pivoting around stuff like about our business and stuff like that.
Well, I had a coach that's always said, when the market changes, whatever your business is, when the market changes, you have to double down and pivot, to use that word, to steal or take other people's market share. And once you take their market share, you'll always have it. But if you lose market share when there's a change, you never get it back.
Yeah.
So, and you guys are great at that. And really, you're the face of Capital Home Inspections. You really are, because you are out there, and it was so smart to leverage yourself, to have that client care person, to have somebody in the office answering the phones and doing the scheduling, so that you could be the face and really love on that realtor base in order to maintain, there are a lot of people who got in the home inspection business, I imagine, just like realtors. We got a lot of realtors who jumped in the business, probably a lot of photographers and folks who jump in the business when the market's really hot and there's a lot of stuff going on. But they're not going to last.
Yeah.
They're not going to last.
Yeah.
So when the market change, I welcome a market change.
Me too.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All the people who...
Thinning the herd is always good.
Yes, because, they're not doing the training that you're doing. They're not listening to the podcast. They're not reading the business books.
Yes.
They're not leveraging. They're not getting experts.
Yeah, and I think that the people that don't make it are the people that when the shift is occurring, they're watching it happen. They're watching the news and they're, like ruminating about like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And, it's like that whole scene instead of like the doing. And so, when we have downtime, we're like, awesome. Like, let's build our business.
Yep.
Like
Business planning.
Yeah, I'm good that way for about a day, and then I'm like, God, but I'm not usually that slow. But it be in the beginning time when you're owning a business, if you don't have any kind of fear in the beginning, that is not a. If you're looking for your weekends, if you're that person that's like, oh, I'm ready for Friday, you know what I'm saying? Then you shouldn't own a business.
Yeah,
because it's 24/7. 7 days a week type of deal.
That's very true, because you hear people say, "Oh, I can't wait for the weekend," and it's just like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No matter what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think for us, I mean, we do find balance. I mean, I do look forward to the weekends. I mean, I know that if something comes up, I'm going to have to handle it. But
But you can plan. You can plan your weekends.
You can plan your weekends, and I think it's important to.
You can plan if you have someone that doesn't call you at the last minute.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
He's looking at me, insinuating I call him at the last minute. I'm not the one that does that.
Yeah, and I think it's all about like kind of also creating boundaries for yourself and for your family. And Ray and I have had to learn that lesson over time. That you can't be accessible to everybody all the time. And in the beginning of our business, we were. If agents texted us at 11 o'clock at night, 5 minutes I was responding. Now I don't respond. If somebody texts me at 11 o'clock at night, I'll text them next morning.
Fair to your kids and
there you go.
And to yourself, it's not fair to yourself. And so there do have to be boundaries up, but there's no question that in the beginning, when you're building your business, you have to do that. You have to do that because that responsiveness is what builds trust with other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Get your name out there.
And you still have to be responsive. I'm not saying to not be responsive, but responsive within the boundaries that you've set for yourself.
Well, you teach people how to treat you. You train them how to treat you. And so if they text you and you respond immediately, then you've set that expectation. And when you don't, the one time you don't deliver the response in 10 seconds, then you're dead to them.
Yes. And that's always amazing.
I have old clients that if I don't respond to them, they're like, "Oh, what's wrong? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but you've trained them that you're going to respond quickly.
Yeah.
Well, also now, we have other people that can help respond.
Yeah, we have systems in place that they still get a response. It just might not be from me.
Yeah, they get responded to quickly, but it doesn't always have to be Jen or I.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. And that's that scaling and leveraging. Yeah. And I know you guys don't use this, but other business owners, there are virtual assistants that, they're overseas or local, and they're there by the phone or the whatever.
Lots of home inspection companies use those.
Yep. Yeah. Texting available to respond quickly because they're in a different time zone and that sort of thing. So just to sort of wrap up, what do you, and I would like each of you to answer this, what are your top 2 things that you think you need to know, have, or do in order to be a successful business owner with a partner, a life partner? I'll give you a second to think about it. And go.
I'll go first. I think the 2 things that you need to have are patience. Patience. And I would say commitment. I think that if you're not fully committed, the first opportunity of things going awry, it's going to be too easy to walk. And I think for things to really work, you have to have that patience and you have to have the commitment. You have to be willing to stick things out when things get hard, because they're going to get hard. They're going to get really hard,
Right. That's great.
Yeah. I would say you have to like the person.
Or love. Or love.
Or both.
Like too, though.
Yeah.
Liking the
most
person
days Jen
is,
likes me. I know she always loves me, but most days she likes me.
Well, the like part is what you're saying, and I love it. What you're saying is you respect her and you're proud of her, and she does a great job, and vice versa.
Yeah,
so you can rely on each other.
Confidence and have undeniable, unquestionable,
faith in them.
Them,
liking your partner is different than loving. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting too, because when you talk to other people outside in social setting, they're just like, man, I don't see how you work with your spouse. And I was just like, well, it depends on your spouse and whether or not you have that chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And it doesn't mean that everything's always great.
No.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we're always having perfect days where we're wake up and have breakfast together and work together and do this together. It's not. That's not what it is.
Well, it's not how you wake up; it's how you go to bed. At the end of the day, how do you feel like
sometimes that isn't pretty,
right?
To be real, it's just not. It's also just how you keep going. We've been married for how many years?
We got married in 2000, so that would be
22 years. And running a business together for 18 years. That's a long freaking time.
Yeah, that is. When's your anniversary? When did you get married?
September.
Oh, September what?
16th.
I'm the 29th.
Oh, I love September. It's
do
my
too.
favorite month.
Great time to have
That's
a wedding.
crazy. Me too.
Oh, really?
No. I'm joking.
Just trying to fit in.
Yes. Wanna be.
One of the cool kids.
Do you have an exit strategy? Like, have you guys
Yes.
talked about what does that look like, and when might that happen? Like, what
happening,
planets
Beth.
need to align?
I mean, I think our exit strategy is, I mean, we're not like have a timeline of like counting down of like getting out of our business. But I think we just want to find more and more ways to have passive income that we're not so dependent, so that if and when we choose at any point that, okay, like our time has come, we will then decide what to do. But, it's interesting. We think like, will we sell the business? Will we pass it down to our kids? Will we just keep running it till we die?
If they wanted to.
Would they even want it? Like, who knows? Like, that's all to be determined. Like, we don't have that specifically all planned out, but we definitely are working towards having more lines of passive income that we are not fully dependent on our business. And we have found ways to do that, to be successful. That also, it takes a lot of the stress off of like the pressure of like the business, because you're going to have, we've had years that were like, damn, we're doing great. And then there are years that we're like, oh my God, this sucks. Are we going to make it? And so, and that doesn't stop just because you've been in business a long time,
Oh,
like
I
you
do.
still have those moments. And so it's just, I think the exit strategy is in like, how do we continue to survive this, and find ways to enjoy it? I think if I can implement more vacation and more relaxation into each year as we go, that will be my exit strategy.
Yeah. And I would say also
More beach
too,
time.
don't wait to think about that. A lot of business owners, I don't think they treat their businesses as a job. They don't necessarily save or, have or think of a 401k, and they just kind of just keep going month to month. And like, you really do need to kind of treat yourself as an employee and think about retirement and saving and, those type of things. Your exit strategy can't just be, oh, I'll sell my business and be rich. No, you need to have several and,
Yeah, because I look at some of my other friends and they're like, oh yeah, I'm retiring in 10 years. And they have this huge like retirement package and pension and all of these things.
Must be nice.
We don't have any of those things.
We don't have that when you're a business owner.
You have to,
No.
if you don't do it, you won't have it.
You have to figure that out. And it's a hard thing, but it's in the end, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And just so the listeners know, there are entities that can come in and do a valuation of your business. So when you are ready for that exit strategy, there are entities who can do that for you.
Yes.
And there are actual classes you can take to prepare an exit strategy for your business. But, what I love most about what you said, which is I'm constantly beating the drum for wealth building and passive income. You really need to think about that especially when you're in the real estate industry, any aspect of this industry. But also, if you're a teacher or a fire person or whatever, you need to think about what are some other streams of income I can get and how do I go about doing that. And I love that because I think what I suspect you're going to be doing, I don't know, stay tuned, but I think they're going to probably be buying some more properties maybe for investment stream. And I just love it. I love that very much. Yeah.
And that's, regardless kind of what you said before, it doesn't matter what your career choice is. I think that's important for everybody to do, because you only have so many hours in a day to make the money yourself. But if you have passive income, that definitely allows you a lot
while you're
more
sleeping,
freedom.
right?
Yeah.
It brings you money, mailbox money every month while
Yeah.
you're sleeping,
But
or
you
whatever.
have to start earlier than when you think you would need to start.
Yes, for sure.
And I love the 401k discussion. Obviously, there are so many people who don't do that, set that up, or put any money away. And you need to have that as part of your budget when you create your business. You've got to have a simple IRA or a SEP or something like that you're contributing to. Because we know, like your grandma and my mom being in assisted living or independent living, you can't believe what these places cost.
So expensive.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, very
You
expensive.
dare I say, like the cheapest I've seen for independent living, this is the cheapest, is about $4,000 a month.
I mean the cheapest.
The okay?
cheapest, yes.
And when we get to assisted living or memory
Yeah.
care, we're talking $9,000 a month, people.
Minimum.
Yeah.
And that's not always including medications. And all
No,
the
it doesn't.
extras.
It doesn't
include
medications,
any of
yeah.
that,
Along
right?
with it.
Yeah.
So you got to be, I don't know, buy that long-term insurance
Yeah, and
or whatever.
we've been through a parent and a grandparent with that, and
You learn a lot.
you learn a lot, and it's there's a reason why they call us the sandwich generation, because
we waited to have
It's a
kids.
lot.
We had kids a little bit later in life, and now we're caring for
for
our
me, I'm like
parents,
a
right?
big I'm a like a hoagie because I've got my parents and thankfully my grandma. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her grandmother is a hoot.
she's
by
the
way.
best.
So, and I was remiss in doing this because everybody's probably wondering what is this bizarre scene we have behind us. And I always ask our guests to tell us what is their favorite place that they just enjoy. And you guys picked the Outer Banks.
Well, I did. I think.
Well, we both
yeah,
like the Outer
Yeah,
Banks.
we both
too.
love the outer. We love Duck
Yeah.
specifically.
So that's what's behind us, is the Outer Banks. So, so thank you for doing that. And I would love for you to share with us again your favorite book, your favorite podcast, whatever you can share. They already shared on episode 2, but maybe they have some new stuff they'll share here.
I'm kind of like order the same thing all the time. Type
That's
of guy.
fine.
You'll
That's
have
fine.
to go back and listen to episode 2 to find that out.
Yeah.
Bigger
yeah.
pockets.
And bigger pockets.
Yeah.
And I mean, We Can Do Hard Things is pretty much my go-to.
Yeah.
I love it.
What I like the one with Jason Bateman and
Oh, I just saw that one.
what
I just saw the
Smart.
something. Smartless.
Smartless. Oh my
Smartless?
gosh, you have to.
Okay.
It's a riot. That's
Yeah, those are
funny
pretty good. Yeah.
podcast.
So
Seen that one.
Yeah, not John Arnett. What's his name? From SNL, last name Arnett. Anyway, he's on it, and then why am I drawing? I'm like,
I'm bad with names of celebrities.
yeah, I'm
It's-
having a definite senior.
He's got a
moment here.
deep voice. He does a lot of voiceovers. That's one of the other guys.
Yeah. But it's Jason Bateman, him, and this three actors, very well-known actors. You would know, Smartless.
They rip on each other pretty hard.
And they have a guest, a celebrity guest for
I love
each
that.
episode. And one person chooses the guest. Oh, Just Jack from Will and
Yeah,
Grace.
yeah.
Him. He's on
Love
it.
that.
And they have a celebrity guest, and one person chooses the guest, and they surprise the other two with the celebrity guest, and then they interview. It's funny. It's a lot of fun.
You know, the other thing that I've been realizing, a big trend of what's happening, is podcast celebrities that were on old shows. Like I'm a huge Superman fan. I don't know if you can, but Smallville was one of them. So now the two main actors are doing a podcast, and they're going through all the episodes and having guests on and stuff like that. And they're of a podcast,
great.
and it's videoed and all that. So I watch it.
That's
and,
very cool.
And so it's kind of they're in depth of what they can remember, like 20 years ago with that scene, or So it's actually pretty. That's a lot of shows coming out that way. Boy Meets World is doing that and all that.
Well, stay tuned. Listen to that. So I wanted to give you guys a little thank you for coming
Oh, thank you.
on to our and you did not 1 but 2 episodes for us. So thank you so much. This is one of my favorite books, and I thought of you, Jen, immediately. And hopefully you haven't read it yet.
I haven't.
Called Jab, 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 Right Hook. This book is all about a lot about social media marketing and how to get out front. And I just love this book. It's got a lot of practical advice in it. How to tell your story in a noisy social world. It covers all these, social media platforms. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank
and
you.
just a little message from me inside to thank you for coming
so
on our
much. I love
podcast.
We
this.
appreciate you having
So-
us.
Can't wait to
Yeah.
read this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so thank you so much. Again, let's plug your business. So tell us what your business is.
So we're with Capital Home Inspections. You can find us online at richmondinspector.com. And our number is 804-639-1171. And we're on all the socials.
804-639-1171. And we do commercial and residential inspections.
New construction.
As
well.
We also do a
Radon.
lot of ancillary services.
Radon testing, indoor air quality testing, all the things.
Yep. So we're actually going to do an episode about radon. So we'll talk more about that later. But thank you so much for joining in to Talk Pretty Real Estate Podcast. We would love it if you would do a review on whatever platform you listen to us and come on back. Thank again for another episode. Michael, thanks for being
Thank you.
a
Subscribe.
subscribe.
Like, hit that bell.
Yeah, hit the bell, like the
bell.
Notification.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would love for you to do that. Thank you all for joining. And actually, we talked about our kids, and one episode that we're going to be doing, which I think is a lot of fun. Well, I hope it is. I hope I'm not crying by the end of it, but we're going to have some kids of realtors.
I think it's a great
on
idea.
here, and we're going to interview them so they can give advice to realtors and
I will definitely be listening to that one.
Yeah.
Well, will you be in the audience just to watch that?
Yeah.
Do a live audience?
Yeah, actually we can.
I want to do a live audience.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
Happen. Yeah.
My real quick, my son's 6 and actually he's 26. But once he realized what I do, this is like when he was like 3 or something like that. He was like, "Did you shoot that house? Did you shoot that house?" Like, buddy, I don't remember the house I shot 2 hours ago. Just let it go.
Well, actually, we got to wrap this up because Michael and I are now heading to a property.
Yep.
To shoot photos, to list it.
Awesome.
So thanks, guys, again.
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate it.
us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Listeners, we'll look forward to you on the next episode of Talk Pretty Real Estate Podcast.
You've just been listening to Talk Pretty with host Beth Pretty. If you have questions or would like to suggest a topic for an upcoming episode, reach out to Beth on Instagram or Facebook at Pretty Properties VA. For more information about Beth and her team, visit prettypropertiesva.com. The Talk Pretty Real Estate Podcast is a production of Studio 77. Visit rvastudio77.com for more information.